And we are finally live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the live show, 40th episode, by the way. That's a, not a milestone, but it's still something. But welcome to Big Nasty and Chanko Big Nasty's live show. You all right, Mike? You got it all get going there? Yeah. I hate that, man. I swear, it seems like that's when the laptop wants to do something. It's right when you get ready to go on. So
it's one of those things where I was putting off the restart, but then I was like trying to prepare for the show, and my camera was like it was like, this isn't going to work. So I just had to do it, and then it took over 15 minutes. So apologies, everyone. Mea culpa. Throw your rotten tomatoes at Chanko. My fault.
Right. Oh shoot, but we got a humdinger of a show today, man. A good one, I think. Another good round table discussion. I think you want to bring out our guest, or you want to tell a little bit about them, or how you want to do that.
Let's just talk just briefly about each.
Okay.
First, our good friend Allan, ComicCollectorGeek. He's been an advocate of these restored and conserved comics for many years, and really one of the people kind of at the forefront of trying to convince people that these are really cool books, and people, it's a way that sometimes it might make it more affordable to buy books that you didn't think you could afford. Our other good friend, Jason, Archivist Adrift, who has worked on books for us and other friends, and really, he's got really one of the best YouTube channels for step-by-step processes and kind of an ASMR approach to this, and I think all of us really love what he's doing. Then we have Dr. Paul, who he literally wrote the book. We're going to talk about the book on Conservation of Comics. Also does a really cool show on Sundays where they talk about this very topic, and they get a lot of times really deep dives into it. And Phil from Phantom Comics, formerly Phantom Restoration, who is kind of right at the forefront, one of the big names in probably worldwide in working on this type of book and doing some conservation on some really rare and expensive comics. So maybe we should bring our new friends out. And old friends.
Yeah. Here we go.
Hi guys.
Howdy.
What's up, y'all?
Hey everybody.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, guys.
Pleasure.
Indeed.
I think this is going to be really fun, and hopefully we can kind of educate and maybe change some hearts and minds on these really cool books and why they are really great, exactly as they are, or as they become. I guess that's what maybe we should say.
Yeah.
So we normally we'll go through and talk to our friends in the chat, say hi to them, and that we're glad they're here. Again, apologize to everybody. It's my fault if you got here a little bit late. I got here late as well. So,
well, let's see. First up is Lewis. Second Louis. Welcome, Lewis. K. Munin.
KM, good to see you.
And you got Derek.
Yo, Derek, good to see you.
And Willie
from Down Under.
And Alex,
good to see
you.
Buddy.
Yeah,
you can pay attention to the chat right now.
Jack.
Jeff, good to see you.
We forgot the round.
AG, one of our good friends. I think everyone knows AG.
Yeah, hi, Rick.
Absolutely. Matt.
Oh, Matt looks like he's got a sketty dinner that he's got to go to.
It was his happy birthday to his daughter.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's totally understandable then.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Gotta have priorities.
Yeah, for sure.
Rob S. Just Michael.
Just Michael.
Just Michael. Great and powerful Robbie Josephs.
One of the best. One of the nicest people you can meet.
Wow.
Yo, Lau. Lau had some news. He, I don't know if he wants me to break it, but one of our friends might be working on a book with Lau coming up.
Yeah.
Let me know.
I knew about that too.
He talked to me. He reached out. I knew she was very, very busy, but let us know if we can talk about that, Lau, or maybe later on if you want to come on at the end.
Let's see. Don Juan Carter.
Good to see you, Don.
Brittany.
Hey, Brittany. Good to see you.
Hey, my man crush Bobby's here.
Bobby.
Hey, Bobby.
So great to see you.
Really glad. Coach.
Yo, Coach. Can't have a show without Coach.
Yep, can't have a show without Coach. Dazzling Dart.
Dazzling Dart, the winner of the giveaway last week, which he has received. So
nice.
Yeah.
Enrique.
Good to see you, Enrique. Enrique coming to us from Venezuela, I believe.
Sleepy Reader.
Hey, Sleepy. Good to see you.
Yeah. And I believe that's it. As they come in, I'll give them a nod. And
Steven's here. Steven's here.
Steven? Oh, Collecto. Okay, there's Steven.
Good to see you, Steven. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Steppa.
Okay. Thanks for everyone for doing this. We've done one of these in the past. We did one on AI with comics. Good to see you, Canadian Survivals. And I'm sorry. Let me. I just wanted to say one more thing to the chat. If it takes us a while to get to you, we have a lot of people, so we're not going to interrupt people to add comments from the chat when we have so many people on. We might get to your comments later, but as always, at the end, we always invite people on if they would really have something they would like to talk about. So apologize if we don't get to your comments right away. It might take us some time. We have a lot of topics to get through. Apologies. So thank you guys for doing this. I think our goal with this was to kind of educate and inform people about how cool these types of comics are and why they're great for what they are, or as we were saying, what they become. So the first question I had, and if someone maybe would want to put their hand up on this, what is the difference between a restored comic and a conserved comic, and what do you believe the value is in restoration versus conservation? Anyone want to take that one?
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I'm happy to. I'm Dr. Paul, for those of you that don't know. Co-wrote this book here with Dr. Shelby Thompson, the Comic Book Conservation Guide. Also co-founder of the Facebook group, Comic Book Conservation Community, and my channel's Liberty Hill Comics. What else did I do, Jason, that's pertinent?
Well, you have the main channel, you know, that you
started the live show with Phil.
Right, exactly.
So there's not one simple, easy distinction of what is restoration versus what is conservation. The reason why is because if you start off with a simple rubric, like conservation is aesthetic, or rather restoration is aesthetic, or conservation is reversible. And then you can always find a corner case where that's not true. So there isn't people, it would be great. And some people do just boil it down to that and say, those are the two distinctions. Restoration is aesthetic, conservation is reversible, and then they're done. But it's not true, frankly. So for example, if you deacidify a book, that's conservation. That's not reversible. You can't reacidify it or reintroduce, contaminants that have occurred due to either oxidation or acid catalyzed hydrolysis. Those things you can't do, right? So it's not truly reversible. Likewise for restoration, there are some things about restoration that are not aesthetic. For example, glue is restoration. That's not necessarily aesthetic. It's just holding a paper together, right? It doesn't make the book look better. So there isn't one single delineation, although those are the main ideas. And then and I have to credit to CGC and Matt Nelson specifically. They went through every corner case and they thought it through, and they said, it's got to be this way, even though it's contradictory to our sort of top level rules. It has to be this way because otherwise it contradicts some more important rule. And so you can find, corner cases where that frustrate people, frankly. But I think at the end of the day, one of the things that I always look at is, with restoration being primarily about aesthetics, you have the opportunity for deception. And of course, that doesn't mean everybody's trying to deceive, but it definitely means there's the opportunity for it and the risk of deception. Whereas with conservation, everything is pretty much on the table. It's laid bare and it's obvious to anything beyond a casual glance. And so I like to sort of think of it that way because that actually captures a lot of the corner cases.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite anyway.
Let me just kind of follow up just 1 second, and I just wanted to follow up on one thing. Is it if you were to talk to somebody who wanted something very succinct, is it fair to say that restoration, as you said, is something that is intended to improve the aesthetic of the book, whereas conservation is more trying to save the comic?
Sure. At the top level.
Please.
But a lot of the things we do for conservation will also make the book look better.
Sure, fair. Yeah, I just wanted to try to boil it down to a way where someone in the audience hearing this for the first time can kind of delineate in their mind kind of quickly what the difference is.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think one big distinction too, if we're talking about the difference between restoration and conservation too, is the quality of the work done. So in addition to just being aesthetic, I think maybe, and Dr. Paul, you hit the nail on the head. I think prior to the conservation label, it was easier to make kind of broad distinctions, but now there's too many corner cases. So it is kind of, how do we describe this? And I think a good way to as closely describe it as possible is restoration is aesthetic improvement and or it was done with amateur methods. I think because that's oftentimes too just the simple distinction between restoration and conservation. If a tear was mended with Elmer's glue, it's restoration. It was done with amateur techniques. But if it was done with wheat paste and archival mending tissues, it's conservation because it was not only holding it together, but it is actually technically preserving it too. So that's one other distinction.
Can I add to that a little bit?
Of course. Please.
The way I always think about it, and I actually think CGC did a good job of this, is you got they have like the level of restoration goes from A to C. C is amateur restoration, then B is like a little bit better restoration, and then A is like professional restoration. Well, then conservation to me is that next level, where it's just one step above that A level, right? Where it's professional, but at the same time it's designed and kind of reversible, but not always. but it's that extra level of professionalism where it is designed to keep the book alive. Basically.
Yeah, and conserved books have to, as I understand it, they have to be A-level work regardless. So
yeah, if it's not A-level work, it can't be in the conserved label. And what goes hand in hand with that I think you're alluding to is that it also has an absolute requirement for all archival materials.
Yeah.
Right. So it's professional and archival, but even if you do professional and archival things, some of them will still not end up in conservation. Some of them can still land you in restored if they have that opportunity for deception. Right. So
and then there's things like if you want to add piece fills to books and you do it prior to 2021, you could layer mending tissues and take better color matching mending tissues and get a close color match, and it would count as conservation as long as it was done only at the spine structurally. And then CGC changed their stance, I think understandably so, to say that leaf casting is a superior way to add pieces. And therefore, if you're adding them the prior way, it's restoration now. But if you leave casting it, it's conservation. And that is where this can start to get a little more confusing.
Well,
so
how I've been describing it in a lot of the live shows I've been on is restoration's focus is aesthetics, conservation's focus is structural. Sometimes they overlap, but those are the focuses of those two branches. So I don't know if that's a simplified version. Yeah.
Now, to follow up on something you said, I know some of you are good friends with Matt Nelson, and for those of you who don't know, Matt he's president at CGC, correct?
He is president.
CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's not CEO, he's president. Oh,
president. I'm sorry, I want to be accurate. But Matt, he really oversees a lot of what's going on or maybe everything that's going on with the comic book side at CGC, and he has a background, a significant background in restoration and conservation of comics. He's been doing it for many years, and he's an expert in the field. Now, how do you feel CGC does with these books, with understanding restoration and conservation, appropriately defining these when they're submitted? I know they try, and I know a lot of people have some criticism, and which I've had in the past. But what's your general take at this moment on the clock? How is CGC doing with that?
Who wants to go? Shall I kick them all off, and then you guys can stay off of it?
I'll just preface it, because I've been submitting books, I think, longer than everyone here that have been conserved and/or within that category. I can unequivocally say better than they used to be. That doesn't mean that you're not going to still encounter issues, but I'll just preface it with that, and let's take the reins.
Yeah. So a bit more on
Allison doing them all. So they're going to get like hundreds of different graders, and some are better at detecting it than others, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So Matt was the youngest ever advisor to Overstreet. Then he founded his own comic restoration company. He became part of CGC because they acquired his comic restoration company, and then they ran it as an internal unit. And then he got promoted internally from there up to head grader, and then eventually to president. So yeah, few people know more about it, restoration and conservation, than Matt, of comic books, that is. I think overall they do a great job. I think Matt does an amazing job. He's navigated the space in terms of, like I said before, defining what's in, what's out. And again, some of the little corner cases can be frustrating, but if you think them through, you go, well, I get why that doesn't quite work. But again, like, it had to be there because in other places it creates even bigger problems.
Yeah.
That said, in practical terms, when you're submitting books, I think one of the biggest issues is that the graders are generally they're generally sorted there at CGC based on experience in terms of what tier they're working in, right? So if you're sending stuff to the most expensive tier, you send a $10,000 book in, it's going to only be held by people that have been grading books at CGC for 15 years or longer.
Good to know.
Just the people that started, and in fact, they don't have, I don't know if they have anybody that doesn't have at least like 4 or 5 years of experience grading now, because the last time they hired was during COVID. They haven't hired since. So everybody working there has at least 4 or 5 years experience grading, right? That said, when you send your book in, like if you send something modern tier with a $400 value cap, it's going to go to somebody with 4 or 5 years of experience, perhaps, in grading books. But they've been seeing those kinds of books, and very few of those books are coming through restored. So the number of restored books or conserved books that those folks have seen before is fewer than 1 in 1,000, right? Like, think about it. If you just think about some comic book from the 80s that gets sent in, how many of those books have been restored or conserved? Again, it's probably 1 in 10,000-ish, right? It's certainly fewer than 1 in 1,000. So they're just not seeing very many of them. So they've been trained. They know what they're supposed to do, but they're human beings, and they're doing this you know, over and over again. And so I think the further you get away from high dollar old golden age books, the more likely you are to have problems. And again, problems can happen on any tier. But if you're sending in 80-year-old books, 60, 70, 80-year-old books, almost everybody seeing those books has seen a lot of restoration. They've seen plenty of conservation, and you're going to have fewer problems. So just in general, that's my assessment of it.
That's actually an idea that I for another panel where I would like to talk to people, and I would love to talk to Matt about CGC, PSA, and perceived improvements that maybe could be made, but without getting too far off in that, because I know we could talk potential improvements for quite some time. What is in your opinion, and please put your hand up if you would like to take this one, the value of restoration and conservation, and which books benefit most from each?
So can I take this one? Because I'm kind of the collector, I guess, of the group. So, and this will kind of maybe piss off the the conservers of the group, because sometimes actually price-wise, conserved books can actually go for less than restored books. And I actually came up with like sort of a method to price out books based on the level of restoration and conservation. And generally, the way it works is, let's say it's a high grade, you get about 1/10 of the value out of that book for restored later. Wow. And the ABC kind of can kind of make that like plus or minus, but say about 10%. If it's like a 6, you get about 40 to 50%, of the value. Okay, this is golden age that I'm talking about. Silver age, it's even like less. But and then for like a 1.0, the restoration versus just the blue label, almost like 90-95%. It's like very little difference between the two in terms of price. Now, the interesting thing is that's restored books. Now, with conserved books, the funny thing is it's almost like 50% of the price all the way through. So at the top tier, you actually get more value for a conserved book. At the low tier, you get less value for the conserved book, which is kind of weird.
Aaron, I don't mean to interrupt, but just for purposes of relevance, the N number. So is it statistically significant because there are so many more restored books than conserved? Have you been able to kind of like look at the data from that aspect, that I'm looking at 50 versus 50 versus like 3 versus 50?
Yeah, so it is, you're always in a much smaller sample size with conserved. The number of restored books, it's like 10-1 or 20-1. It's not even close. But generally speaking, those are the rules of thumb that I price books based on. And when I do a lot of my pricing stuff that I do on my channel a lot, that's what I see consistently. About 50% about the.
Can I ask one? I just one question comes to mind. I'm curious about. Would you say that there's a preponderance of books that are conserved where the note is cover cleaned or interior lighting? Like almost primarily, would you say that's what you see more often than not in the conserved versus restored that might be color touch or glue on spine or something like that?
So I know there are different levels of conservation, I should say. Cover clean is the most common, I guess.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is it's like because we go over a segment oftentimes every week where we're looking at a universal grade versus restored versus conserved, and we've noticed a trend where there's a lot. You see it more often in like Silver Age books that weren't intended to be conserved but got hit with the covered cleaned notation because someone did cleaning and it went too hard. So that, to me, even in Golden Age, I feel like more often than not when you see conserved it might just be covered clean. Like that might be the only notation, or interior lightened. It's not.
You know, the funny thing is, even with cover cleaned, when it's not even chemical cleaning, I've seen those get restored labels too, which is really weird. It's like, what are they doing?
Well, CGC used it, but before CGC started the conserved label, they would just pop them under the restored label. Right. They didn't know where to put them. And didn't Matt kind of mention that early on they considered even like a straight pressing or very minimal cleaning?
You can find examples. Yeah, you can find examples of restored books in purple labels that just say restoration includes comic pressed. That was like really early. That was before Matt joined CGC. They weren't sure what to do with pressed books. Allan, I think like in terms of the restored books, I would tend to agree with you, though I'm not sure I would be to the same degree with you on the low end. So on the high end, I completely agree with you. I think like I bought an All-Star 8. It's a 9.0 restored. So what are you going to pay for a 9.0 Universal? It's going to be $500,000 or in that range, right?
Yeah.
I paid about $40,000 for it. So that's about 10% of what Universal would
that's
sell.
why I said about 10%.
So I think you're dead on there. And I do think the trend that you notice as you go downgrade and restored is also correct. I'm not sure that at the low end it's no difference between restored.
No, I didn't say no difference, but about 90 to 95% of the price. So
I think my experience is it's a little more than that, but that trend, but I agree with you on the trend.
For more than the blue label.
It happens. Well, and that's another thing I'd like to point out. Like there's just not enough data. You can say there's a trend, this or that, but you can find books. Yeah, we've seen restored books that sold for twice what the last Universal in that grade sold for. And it wasn't even like, well, yeah, but that one sold 10 years ago. The last one sold last year. Right. Well, you can find crazy outliers like that.
I've seen like within the same auction, or even like within a few weeks of the books, where a restored one sold for more. And the reason for that, it's less about the restoration and all that kind of stuff. It's more about which book presents better as a 1.0.
That's true. I think that's true. I think
there's actually a Superman 1 that just sold that was previously a restored book, and then they reslabbed it, and PSA didn't note that it was restored, and it actually sold more than a 1.0 CGC book.
I saw that
because it presents.
I think that's true. I think another thing that's happening is people like Phil and Jason and I are looking at those books, and we're going, what would this be if I did restoration removal? And so sometimes you'll see a book it's a 2.0 restored, but it's not trimmed, and it has a few flaws that we could correct pretty easily. We could remove the restoration, and then we're looking at it going, this could be a 3.0 Universal. Now that book's going to sell for a nice premium, and that book may sell for more than a 1.0 Universal, just because the flaws in it are easily
removable,
corrected.
Yeah.
That's why I'm curious if the trend that you've noticed with the conserved, if it's due to the covered cleaning, the reason because they're getting less is because you can't reverse covered cleaning, but other restored labels, people are like, oh, potential. And then to that point too, I have quite a few people that have reached out asking questions. Hey, can we do work on this? And I'll look at the label and see trimming, and I'm like, no. Or rotary gloss, and I'm like, no. And there's certain things, but sometimes people don't know. Some people probably buy it and think that they can do work, but then they can't. But whatever it is, regardless, there's still potential there versus covered clean. This is what it is. This is
that's why in the low grade, people are taking that gamble. They're saying, oh, it's just glue on the spine.
Yeah.
Well, that's removable.
Yeah, exactly.
And if it's a low grade, you might actually, be okay. It might make
exactly.
Can we just I want to go a little bit further with what Phil was just talking about. Which books specifically will benefit most from conservation versus restoration? And restored books, which things can be easily reversed or turned to conserved. What are your thoughts on that? I think some of us know, but some people in the chat might not know which books could be conserved or which books might benefit from restoration or conservation.
Jason, I don't want to monopolize. Why don't you just,
Jason,
why don't you kick this one?
Tape, mold, all easy. No. Yeah, that's a good question. Well,
just basics.
I think. I mean, a book that's filthy in general, I guess, is obviously easy to conserve, but yeah, it depends. When I'm looking at something like tape removal, it depends on how much tape there is and whatnot. Things that, of course, trimming is going to be hard. You see a lot of tape. You think glue, generally speaking, but you don't know how much glue's on there. Color touch is another thing. If it's a minimal amount of color touch, you can usually reverse that. But actually, Phil, you probably would be better to handle that question than me, I think.
I mean, I suppose this is one of the only things I actually know quite a lot about. So, I mean, the short answer is, and Matt said this once, and I thought that it rang true. Oftentimes when or at least from what I remember him saying, the graders are kind of taught when you're looking for restoration, there's things that jump out. It's color touch. It's like you're something that looks like unnatural when you're running your finger along the spine and it feels really rough because all of a sudden there's glue that you're, stuff like that. I think the long and short is at this point, there's very few cases of books that restoration really makes sense. And in fact, this is why I changed my name from Phantom Restoration to PhatomComicStudios, because at the time I made the name, it seemed appropriate, but we know in our hobby, restoration kind of has a stigma to it. It's not intentional, but it just is what it is. And I was kind of doing myself a disservice because people would say, "Oh, you do restoration." I'm like, I do very little restoration. I do mostly restoration removal, high-end cleaning and pressing, and conservation. So the answer though is, let's say you have a book that's trimmed on one or more than one side, and you leaf cast it, and then you want to do the color touch because there's such a large amount of color missing. It's really cases where the book is like a 0.5, and it's more about the love of the book. It might not make sense from an equity point of view, but it's especially with some golden age books, it's like, this is really all we have to work with. There might only be 4 other copies on the census. So it's like, you're not going to find another copy. Let's make this one as nice as we can. But even then, cost becomes a barrier. So then does it even make sense to do all this work? And oftentimes, unless it's a Batman one or something in that caliber or higher, it doesn't make sense to do it. So conservation is nice. I mean, this is why Matt had the insight to kind of separate conservation from restoration, because there is a distinction. And I think
on your point, Phil, when you were talking about the name of your business, I was watching a video recently of Susan Zacconi, and it's from I think 2011 or not even that long ago. And one of the question, the Q&A, people were asking her about when should they get a book restored, and her problem at that point, even that in my opinion late, was that the big issue was that too many people were contacting her to do color touch on little creases in a book, because the demand for restoration was so strong that people just wanted a book that looked perfect, because they thought that would escalate the value like crazy. And so and CGC kind of almost changed that overnight, especially I think when people started realizing that a lot of books that they thought had no restoration turned out to have restoration. But for years, it was people were looking for people to restore books, and they went for a premium value sometimes.
So I have the advantage of kind of going after these geniuses, but I can give like a hierarchy. So trimming is the most difficult to deal with. You're going to basically just stay away from those books. Not that it can't be done, but it's a nightmare. It's almost never worth it. color touch is probably the next most difficult thing to deal with. And then glue is less difficult generally than color touch. And so if you think about those are the three main things that get a book thrown into. There's also piece fill. I would put piece fill as even below glue as kind of one of the easiest things to deal with. So those are the four main things that get a book thrown into, right? Into restored. And then when you look at the amount, again, it's ABC in terms of amateur to professional. And then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in terms of the amount. So if something is restored but A1 and not trimmed, that's going to be a book I'm going to look at for potential for restoration removal because it's been done professionally. It's A1. It has a very small amount and it wasn't trimmed. So it's got either a small amount of color touch, small amount of glue, small piece fill, right? And so you can look at books for, in terms of when you're evaluating books for restoration removal, that's the way I think about them. Yeah. And if you look at the books, if you watch our channel and you watch sometimes when we do pickups, you look at the books that I'm buying that are restored, they're almost always, you'll see a pattern emerging where they're always books that have a light restoration that would be relatively easy to remove and put over into a conserved label or sometimes even universal. With respect to what books will conserve well, I think Allan hit on something here in terms of like high grade. You're going to have a relatively small gap between conserved and universal. One of the things that you can do in conservation is mend tears to an otherwise almost perfect book. So like imagine you have like an early Silver Age, whatever, you have a Ditko ASM, and it presents beautifully, but the cover's split. That's going to grade out at a 1.8 or a 2.0 or something, right? But if you just mend that cover and throw that in, that might be a 7.0 conserved. Yeah. And so you can create a lot of value. I think that's, to answer your other question, that's where you can create, the most value you can create is relatively straightforward restoration removal, and then taking an otherwise high-grade book with one flaw like that and reversing the flaw with conservation and then getting a relatively high conserved grade.
Do you want to show the headline that I gave you the picture of? I think because that illustrates the before and after universal to conserved
this was
label just for people.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. We had a lot of questions about examples. So Rich, maybe do you have the ones that Phil sent over?
I'm not sure which ones Phil sent over.
Send over one with Hitler, the Hitler cover.
Yeah, the Instagram ones.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So this is one I can speak personally because I own this book. It's on my shelf over there. And,
it's so cool. It's weird.
It's a great book. It's one of those, if you haven't seen it, well, you're not going to forget it. For sure. And so, I mean, I used to own an under copy of this, and I specifically bid on the 3.0, seeing that label note cover detached. And I looked at the book otherwise and said, man, this thing structurally looks like a nice mid-grade copy. And I'm going to do some conservation work on it. I'm going to reattach the cover so it has some structural stability. At the time I did this was 5-6 years ago now. I didn't, the page quality was nice. There was no need to deacidify anything. It was just to get the book back together. It got a nice, a 4 grade bump. And at least for me, it's one of those things. I'm not planning to sell the book. I think that you can make the case that the equity had some effect on the grade, net positive, but maybe it's up for interpretation. But at least in my opinion, this is a book that I tried not to look at the numbers. I just looked at I want to hold on to this forever. I think this makes sense to do this. I don't think it does. I'm not trying to deceive anyone. I'm just trying to, all I did was mend the spine splits, and I added some. I would now have to leaf cast the pieces I added here because I did this before they changed their stance. But I didn't have any problem doing this. I thought it made sense.
Another case I think that I know, Allan, you've been interested in is bringing back the suppleness to brittle pages. So
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that's a technique that people like Professor Peter Olachi and whatnot who have kind of helped explore. And
that doesn't count as conservation, or does that get a blue label?
That's a great question.
If it's detected, is that
the short answer, Allan, is it's yes, it's blue label as long as it's done basically 100% correct. It's no different than the blue light cleanings people have been doing.
Then why don't you guys buy a whole bunch of these brittle?
Well, I'm working on it.
Well, within that realm, brittle is not all created equal. Sometimes you'll go to wash it and it is flakes, and sometimes brittle is more slightly brittle. You know, there's just one area that's brittle. So
the big problem for a lot of brittle books for me is that they're often also spine split. So at least in the price range, what I want to buy them.
By the way, I just appraised your book, just so you know. Your 3.0 would sell for about $5,000 right now. Okay. Your 5.0 would sell for about $7,500.
Can we talk about just for a second? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but when we're talking about these, there is something going on here, and we'll show the book that Jason worked on for me. In this book, I had never seen this book. I'm assuming that it's pretty low census. Is that right?
The headline, yeah. Oh yeah, it's
a big book.
You see 40 copies total. It's not many.
I can tell you. Wait.
When you're talking
38.
Oh wow.
It's one less because I still have the universal label from this provenance.
Actually, there's a lot of phantom books on the census. Yeah.
So when we're talking about this, one of the things I wanted to talk about is why it is so cool to save books. Like this book, like if you have something where it's brittle pages, rusted staples, there is still, even in the slab over time, that book is going to get worse. I believe. You correct me if I'm wrong. So like, is it, I mean, there's a coolness aspect to like some of this is we are the caretaker of old books. So if you're into old books, which I think all of us are, what we're so part of this is you have a certain, I would hope, responsibility to make sure that this book lasts to see other generations. This book has gone through, like some kid probably had this, like, you know, and it's arrived in your hands, and and you just happen to have the tools and skills to maybe make this book last another 80 years. Absolutely. You know, is there something to that, and can we impress upon people in the chat like why it is so cool to take care of these things and make sure that they last, even if you know, regardless of when we're talking about net value, unless you're just flipping the book. If you're just flipping the book, then you probably don't care about that. But why this is cool and sure, why this saves books and why this is important to save these books.
Well, maybe we can pull up the America's Best Comics before and afters that I sent you, and we can sort of talk over those. Because I think that's a case where there may not have been a ton of equity created, but a book was preserved and conserved and will be around for another few hundred years, where it was really on its last leg when I received it.
It might take a minute. Rich had like a certain amount of slides that he was able to add. But, Rich, if we could get the last ones that Dr. Paul sent us that he was talking about, we did organize those, but yeah, if anyone would just like to talk about that aspect of this, I think it's a really important point, and I think it's something that might help change people's minds on why this is a good thing to do. So I'll start. These books are printed on pulp paper. They were meant to be ephemera. They were meant to be disposable entertainment. This paper is not intended to last, period. It's what is known as an auto-destructive material, which means just it will destroy itself given enough time. The paper goes through two forms of degradation, just normal oxidation and a acid catalyzed hydrolysis. Both of those processes have been happening since this book was printed. And you can arrest both of those processes with a deacidification wash.
And when we do deacidification, we leave what's known as an alkaline reserve in the paper. That's the same as buffering. When you buy, remember when you guys all been around for a while, we used to be able to buy crappy backer boards that weren't buffered, and they would destroy comics, right? They would actually accelerate that destruction in a crazy way. And then we got buffered on one side, and then we got buffered both sides, and that's kind of standard now, right? So we can actually apply that buffering. It's invisible. We can apply that buffering in the paper of the book. And then the book is going to last for hundreds of years as opposed to decades. So here's a book that came to me, very low grade book. It was not slabbed, but I would estimate it, what is this, a 2.5 or something like that. This is a book that I featured, and there was nothing complicated here. It was a deacidification, mend a couple of tears, and take this spine roll out. As a sort of byproduct of the deacidification, we get a washing and a light bleaching effect. So if you could go to the next slide. Again, not super dramatic in terms of the delta here. Just cleaned it up. You can see the lower left on the book does look a lot nicer. But because you take the spine roll out, you sometimes actually expose that right-hand edge will occasionally look worse, actually. So again, in terms of presentation, I think it presents better. The paper is whiter, cleaner. But the main thing here was this book is now good to go. It's deacidified with an acid, with an alkaline buffer. And again, this is going to last many, many lifetimes, hundreds of years. Paper treated in this way is good for many hundreds of years. Paper not treated in this way is good for a few decades.
Paul, would you mind just explaining acidic paper versus alkaline?
Sure. So it's ironic. Anybody that looks at that collects old books also will know that books from the, say, 1600s, 1700s actually survive better than books printed after 1850. Because around 1850, we discovered how to make pulp paper, and books after that point are made with a lower quality paper. And so it's kind of ironic. You can find books from the 1600s with still white pages. And then if you find a book from the 1870s, it's going to be literal brown and flaking into pieces, generally speaking. And the reason why is because they democratized reading. Prior to 1850, only rich people could afford books. But they started making this really inexpensive paper. And one of the sort of byproducts of that is the paper doesn't last because the way that it's manufactured introduces acids, and then those acids are never neutralized or washed out. So they remain resident within the paper. Another thing that happens is, and it used to be this was thought to be the primary problem. Turns out it's just kind of a secondary issue. Lignin has gotten a really bad rap as being the cause of this yellowing or degradation. It turns out,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just for people who don't know lignin.
Sorry.
Just when we're getting technical, I don't know that one. I don't know.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Paper consists mostly by volume of cellulose. And then there's another polymer known as hemicellulose. And then in smaller amounts, there's a material called lignin. Now, if you make paper out of cotton, it has basically no lignin. And it's also manufactured in a way where you don't need to introduce the acids. When you make paper out of trees, softwoods, mostly firs and, pine trees, you have a relative lot of lignin. It might only still be teens to 20% by volume, by mass. That lignin was thought to be the reason why this paper goes bad. In fact, the acidic processing is the reason why the paper goes bad. But the presence of lignin in that acidic environment creates a negative feedback or a positive feedback loop in this case for the destruction of the paper.
I see.
So that's what's going on. But by deacidifying it and leaving a buffer in there, we can actually 100% arrest that process. And so even a high lignin content paper like pulp paper, if it's been properly buffered, can last almost indefinitely.
So just again, I want to make sure we're getting everyone on the same technical.
I appreciate it.
Here.
Yeah.
So we're adjusting the pH of the paper to a level where this acidification, where the acid is really and tell me if I'm using the wrong term, but it's basically like eating and degrading the paper.
Absolutely.
By adjusting our pH to a level that's more acceptable, we're going to save and conserve this book over time to preserve it for future generations.
Absolutely. So what's happening is actually the cellulose chain is this. It's a carbohydrate polymer, and that's what makes up the bulk of the paper. And hydrolysis occurs where basically water enters that chain and starts to break it down. And you break that chain smaller, 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 smaller. Eventually, you don't have paper anymore, right? And that chemical reaction is always happening on a very tiny amount. But when in the presence of acid, that chemical reaction gets accelerated. And then the problem is one of the byproducts of that chemical reaction is itself acid. So then more acid is introduced. So then that accelerates it more. So the books tend to spiral. You know, a book will stay, like a Golden Age book can stay creamy for decades. Once it turns the corner and starts to tan, it goes from tan to brown very quickly because this process accelerates. It's like
what is the accelerate? You mentioned spiral, and I hate to interrupt. I'm just trying to make sure everyone in the chat is just keeping up. When you're saying it spirals, so it accelerates once it goes from the I'm sorry, you mentioned the grade of the paper or the color of the paper.
Sure, yeah. When I say spiral, I just mean like spiral out of control. You know, colloquially we use that. I don't mean like do a circle.
I understand.
Yeah. But yeah, so in anybody that owns Ernst Gerber's books, the Photojournal Guide to the Golden Age Comics, and then the photo, he did extensive research on this, and he plotted graphs where he shows the paper is relatively stable. Like it only degrades in the first decade, it only degrades like 5%. In the next decade, it degrades like 10%. Exactly this book. And then, but in the like third or fourth decade, and it depends on, you know, storage conditions, it'll in that last decade, it'll degrade like 50%, right? So it really, and the reason why this is happening is because that first little bit of degradation increased the acidity, decreased the pH. And then that decreased pH led to more degradation, and it's a feedback loop that accelerates then the degradation.
I didn't know that at all.
One thing that
so by arresting it, you know, we can completely stop that process, and that's the most important.
Amazing.
Just quickly, like, sorry to hijack.
Please.
I feel like, you know, because I collect Golden Age, I feel like all of these books are going to be dust. And I wonder if there should be a point where we say, well, hey, we kind of have to conserve everything at this point because these books are like 100 years old and they're all going to turn to dust if we don't do something. And
you raise a good point.
The conservation, maybe this deacidification actually won't be considered conservation anymore. It'll just be considered, well,
maintenance.
It has to be maintenance. It's something that has to be done.
Part of the only reason we don't see that is for probably part of the reason you mentioned earlier, where you saw the conserved but likely just cleaned books going for less. And the reality is, and we've discussed this in the past, I mean, if you have a book that's basically the same condition, but one has white pages and one has cream to off-white, if you deacidify the cream to off-white pages one and you do nothing to the other one and say that one's unrestored, it's worth more, cool. If we put it in a room and come back 100 years later, we all know what's going to happen. The one that was white pages, it's going to be, you know, we know what's going to happen. The other one will actually have lasted longer. So there's a objective reality there that the other one that's been deacidified should have more value, but we're at this weird crossroads right now where the books with the most value are the ones that are untouched. So that's a weird balance to kind of play.
I always feel like, maybe because our hobby is actually kind of young compared
That's what it was. Yeah. We're only 85 years old,
I think of like paintings, right? And, the Mona Lisa has been like
so many times.
A lot of stuff has been done to that painting. Okay. Yep. But that's not going to devalue. It's not, oh, sorry, now I can only give you 5
Exactly.
It's like, it's kind of considered to be what you do. And I think we have to almost get that mentality into our hobby, because if we don't, these books are all dust.
This is a philosophical question, and it's one of the main things that I wanted to hopefully tackle here. And I'm glad we're getting to it, because if you are in, like someone just said, collecting Golden Age books equals collecting dust. That's what we're hoping to avoid. That's what we're trying to stop.
We're not living in the future. We're just trying to be aware of it. That's all.
Speak for yourself.
Like Allan said, like the Mona Lisa or these paintings. I'm of the opinion that what is going to happen eventually with collecting, and I could be wrong, but I might not live to see it, is that a lot of these books, Golden Age books, Platinum Age books, or some of these books are going to be treated as like antique books, rare antique books. And there, I think the value is, I think you're going to see it kind of go like that, where a lot of these are just, just trashed. And even the low census and even, how few there are of some of these, I think that these are going to be very, very precious. And it's up to us right now to save these so other people can enjoy them later. Like, I have a Crime Suspense Stories 22 that has this terrible label that somebody named Robert Johnson put on there. It's like stuck to it. But Robert Johnson, that stupid kid that put that label on that book, he saved it enough. At least he didn't put it in his bicycle spokes. I have it now because he at least put it in his dresser drawer. And it's only a 1.8, but I have it. Like, he didn't burn it. His parents didn't get a hold of it and shred it when during SOTY. So like there's still something to be said of taking care of these, preserving these, because they're cool and we love these things.
Absolutely.
And I think that people need to understand that if you're operating in this type of book, like, if you're if you're only collecting books that you're buying at the local comic shop, this week or something, maybe this isn't important to you. But if you're really thinking about like the history of comics and the comics that really laid the foundation for this stuff, and the cool stuff that was around for years and years and years ago, and why we would hope that people get to enjoy this, children's children, and the next generation beyond. This is important stuff, and taking care of these is important stuff. I don't know if anybody would like to add to that.
Yeah, I'd like to comment. Sorry, Jason. Something really pertinent here, and we, not to plug the book too much, but we sort of broke this in the book, and that is, we're doing blue label conservation. Matt Nelson wrote the foreword for our book, and every chapter we reviewed with him and went through. And one of the things that we outlined in the book is, hey, if you do it perfectly, and you have to do it perfectly, but if you do it perfectly, you can take a Golden Age book, you can deassemble it, you can deacidify it, you can reassemble it with a press, and you can sub it and get a universal label without any kind of subterfuge. We actually write down notes. We tell CGC exactly what we did. I include the scientific references. I say, I use the method of Hay et al. 1980, etc. And I send that in. So I'm not trying to get one by CGC. They know exactly what I'm doing. It's been outlined. They're assessing it, and they're saying, right, it's been deacidified, but it was done so well. There's no degradation to the paper quality, to the ink quality, to the color quality. There's no paper shrinkage. There's a whole list of things. The feel of the paper is correct. It's not puffy. It's got the right gloss. Everything has been done properly, and we can do blue label conservation. And so that gets to this issue, Mike, of preserving these treasures without degrading the value in the current marketplace.
Yep, that's the balance.
Sorry, Jason.
No, it's okay.
I just had to get that out.
I was going to say, well, you collect Brazilian books, and you're seeing an accelerated state of what we're experiencing just now with these 85-year-old books because of the climate conditions that they had to endure, and they're falling apart before people's eyes, you know. So that's why there's such a need for this. But even if we couldn't do this perfectly, that really feeds into the reason why conserved books should be reevaluated by the marketplace in general, because regardless of whether or not it's it can ever get back to a universal state, deacidification is part of the process, and of course removing tape and removing rusty staples and everything else that we do in the conservation sort of scene. We're not only aesthetically or instructionally preserving these books, but we're preserving them for history, you know.
Exactly right. And since you mentioned it, and I apologize, we'll get to questions like right after this part, but could we show the pictures that Jason, the book that Jason did for me, like maybe the before? So you brought up the Brazilian comics, and this was a book that I got. I'm a big fan of a guy named Jaime Cortez, who was a Brazilian, this great Brazilian artist. These books are like almost always trashed when you find them. They're rusted staples. They're degrading. The acid contact of these pages is really, really high, and there wasn't a big collector culture in Brazil. So as a result, these are very, very rare, and almost always when you find them, they're in terrible shape. This one wasn't awful. Could you show the other pictures, Rich? I don't know if you still have the other ones of the before. Yeah, there. So it's rusted staples, rust ingress into the pages, the like high acid contact in the pages. And Jason, would you talk just a little bit about the book as you found it and what you did with this?
Yeah. So as you see, the staples were all rusted. Of course, there was a strong smell to it, usually associated with the acids of the paper. And basically, it was it was basically falling apart. And so I deacidified it. I did some leaf casting to the staple holes because they were completely gone, essentially. And cleaned it up as well as I could in order to bring it back to some sort of vitality. The paper was, I don't want to say it was necessarily brittle, but it was turning that way, So when I added some Bestine to it, and I'm sorry, not Bestine, betaine to it, and glycerin, and kind of gave some suppleness back to the pages again, so it had some sort of strength, and the whole thing kind of felt, I don't want to say new, but it felt not like it didn't feel like it was going to fall apart anymore. So yeah.
Great job, great series of videos on this too.
Thank you.
Rich,
really
could you make? Oh wait, here this was that's the before of the cover, and you could see how cool it is. You could see how cool, like
the thing I was freaked out about most was that stamp right in the middle there. That's and it's like it was like a promo book of some sort. And so when I cleaned the cover, I was concerned about the ink bleeding through the back, and it actually did, but it didn't seem to affect the grade at all, and it looks okay. Yeah.
So, Rich, could you make me big? I have the book. I was going to show it the end result here. So, if you haven't seen the series of videos that on mine and Jason's channel, Jason Archivist Adrift, and mine at Comics, but this was the end result. It's a 5.5 conserved.
Oh man!
But
wow.
Some things about this. This is the only known copy of this book. It's the only one on census. None has ever come up for auction. It's possible, given kind of low print runs and the way these books were in Brazil, this might be the only existing copy. So it's possible.
Had I known that, I don't know if I would have touched the book, but
so it's this really cool cover of the kind of the zombie guy who's holding the noose that he was hung by. Allan has suggested before that this promotional thing, he was saying that these are normally could you talk about that, Stamp? What your thoughts were on that, Allan? Or
so often when they produced a comic, they would give like promo copies to the artists that were involved, and they would often stamp those promo copies with some kind of stamp like that. So they would give the artists. So this might have been actually in Hemi Cortez's collection or whatever.
It's like a file copy,
basically a file copy. Yeah.
So I mean this is a really big deal. This is like if you look at in some of these titles in the Brazilian books and the census, there are gaps where there are
no year on that.
I'm sorry.
What's the year?
This one was 1961. So one of the things you find when you start looking at these Brazilian books is like they're kind of what you would call their golden age. It really kind of starts about as the golden age is ending here. It's usually like 52, 53. And so like, toward the end, like 54, I guess we would call our end of our golden age going forward for them. And it extends like almost into the 70s, like what this kind of book was, what they were doing with this stuff. So this is extremely important that this book was saved. Cool. Dracula on the back and everything. It's just so badass.
Well, and that book felt like a book from the 40s. It felt like an American book from the 40s. It didn't feel like a book from the 60s necessarily, or it didn't even look like a book from the 60s.
Yeah, I was absolutely thrilled with it, and I just wanted to highlight that part about how important this stuff is. What we're talking about, and why. If you feel the way, like I think all of us do, that we're kind of like stewards of these books, and we are as Jason has named himself, we're archivists of this stuff that of history, and we believe in this. Of course, value of books is important. I mean, these are expensive books, but there's another elevated aspect to this, where you are trying to maintain these and hopefully save these for future generations and people after you, and somebody else is going to enjoy this. I'm going to die someday, and someone will be able to enjoy this book rather than it turning to dust before I do.
Yeah,
it seems to me that
stewards of these books.
Yeah.
It seems to me that the stigma that initially started because of CGC finding restored books by people who didn't know they had books that were restored, that kind of thing. I get this sense, reading like the CGC forum boards and things like that, and channels like Allan's, and that the tide is slowly but beginning to turn, where people are realizing that, hey, wait a second, maybe these books, maybe we overreacted. Maybe we have to reassess all of this, whether it's conserved or restored, and maybe we need to rethink, how valuable these books are.
Well, if you watch the early videos on my channel, like the early videos, I really saw restored books. I know you guys are more on the conserved side, but I saw restored books as a huge opportunity, because I love big books, but I can't afford big books. And basically, these restored books were like so much cheaper.
Percentages,
yeah. So like back to that 10%, if they're in high grade, well, that could be actually, you could get like a 9.0 copy of some really amazing book.
Great point.
Cheaper than a 1.0. Yeah. And I was baffled by that, because it looks way better. Yeah. And if any mindset changes, like let's say maybe they don't completely say, oh, it's the equal value, but they just say maybe it's, instead of 10%, maybe it's 20% or 30%. Well, all of a sudden you've tripled your investment.
Yep.
So I just saw it as a huge opportunity. And maybe I was ignorant. I was late in the game in terms of understanding purple labels. I was just buying them like, hey, these are cheap. But I just thought it's just such an opportunity.
So buy them now while you still can.
Exactly. I've got some purple labels here for you guys.
I mean, I've been collecting long enough to see the swing where there was a time when restored books always went for next to nothing, and like there wasn't a perception of like removing restoration and increasing the equity in the book. It was just like, well, this is what it is. And in the same way where at the same time savvy people are having books dry cleaned and pressed, if you didn't know any better, like I collected books for a long time and sold my TOS 39 that I have from when I was a kid before I started doing this. And I was like, how much money can I be leaving on the table by not cleaning and pressing it? The most basic work. I left twice the amount, more than twice. Sold the book for $3,000. The guy had it cleaned and pressed. It came back a $5,000. I sold it at like a 3.5 or a 4. It's quite a lot of money to leave on the table. So it is interesting how just in terms of potential for restored books and removing stuff, that's just one variable. But then at the same time, as time goes on, and some books are just, there's 8 total graded copies. This restored one comes up. It's not going to go as much as a universal, but like you said, you can get it for a fraction of what you would otherwise. And why isn't that acceptable? It's totally acceptable as long as you
can have it at all. Like, you might not, that might be priced so far out of your range. You could never imagine to have I don't know, a Tech 31 or something like that. But maybe suddenly there is one where maybe, with bonuses and saving and trading some books, or maybe you could.
Yeah. I have a kind of a interesting hypothetical or a question or whatnot, but there's this whole market of removing restoration to get either a conserved or universal grade. What happens if we do turn the ship around and now people have these defaced books and they're no longer restored and they want them to be looking nice?
Then it's going to be called Re-Restoration Studios.
A whole
Phantom Re-Restoration Studios.
That was on my end part of the responsibility that I have, where I realized I can do the work, but sometimes it's I have to gauge the expectations, but also I have to know if it's within a reasonable degree to remove this color touch, or am I going to do it and people are going to look cool? It's blue label now, but this book is wrecked. You're like, you wrecked
you ruined it.
The sanctity of the book just to make the blue label. And so I've had to put my foot down to clients and say, look, I know you really want the blue. You're going to pay me and you're going to see the book and you're going to be pissed because you're not going to like the way it looks. It's not better like that. It's actually in its best state now. So let's just accept it. And it is what it is. And sometimes that's okay, especially in these very rare books.
So, I'm personally in the opinion that if it's a purple label and presents beautifully, even if it's something that can be removed, especially color touch, because when you remove color touch, usually they actually remove pieces from the book because it penetrates.
Often,
it just looks so bad. Like I'm like, I'll just leave it in the purple label. It looks nice. I'm happy with it.
It doesn't make sense to make it look worse. No, but really, what's the point? It doesn't. There's a balance there. There really is a balance.
Yeah. I think restoration removal is best on like anywhere from a 0.5 to maybe a 4.0 restored, because you can often remove the restoration and be in a similar grade and end up universal. And that's where you can create equity. And again, you could deacidify the book and still leave it universal if you know what you're doing. And so you're preserving it, you're creating equity, you're getting it out of that purple label in terms of like, it's just easier to sell. Even if it's sold for the same amount of money, it would sell faster, right? So it's just easier to move.
Now, I had one more topic, just a question, and then maybe we could handle some questions from the chat and invite people on if they had a question. But my hopefully, if anybody has to go, let me know. But I think we're in really a fascinating discussion, so I hope we can talk a little while. But just a devil's advocate question, and this was something that came up in a chat where I was asking somebody about their opinion. Is it ever too much? Like when you're adding or marrying or something, do you philosophically, do you ever feel, and let me know why, do you ever feel it's like, okay, this isn't the same book anymore, or what we've done is too much? Please, Dr. Paul.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is disclosure. It's just disclosure. I think there's no amount of messing that you can do that's too much, as long as you've disclosed all of it and the next owner knows it. Actually, it's similar to consent, right? There's nothing wrong in the bedroom. There's no, you've gone too far, or that was, as long as it's consented, right? And this is the same thing in many ways. It's marriage, leaf casting, I think everything is on the table as long as it is disclosed. When you are doing things that are not disclosed, again, that possibility of deception for the next buyer, that's where there's a big philosophical issue there, in my opinion.
Well, that's why I actually buy purple label books, because it is disclosed. Like, I know what I'm getting into when I'm buying it. So it's, I see it as just a cool book that
you've been consented.
I've been consented. Yes.
So if no one would like to add to that, maybe we can start answering some questions from the chat. We could start wherever, Rich, wherever you want to start. But there's one we'll start with the most recent one, and then we'll kind of go back as far as we can. But our buddy Benny Compton, Benny Blanco, asked, can a book with a torn cover be put back together and be listed as conserved?
Yeah. That's the most straightforward. That's one of the most straightforward things we do as conservators. It's called paper mending, and absolutely, that's basic.
We can go one step further. We can go one step further, and we can marry, torn covers, and
we'll deacidify it while we're in there, and we'll get a bunch of stuff done.
Right.
It'll be better than when they found it.
Better than the day it was manufactured, as a matter of fact.
That's true.
And please explain staple cleaning and replacing.
We just talked to Matt about this extensively, right?
Yep.
The Cliff Notes version.
CGC's position is that anything other than the original staples need to be disclosed, and then it's going to be in the label somewhere. You can deacidify or rather derust your existing staples. That's conservation work generally. You can do light de-rusting and stay in blue label. And I actually, you know what? I prepped some images to send you guys, and I didn't send them, so I apologize, because I didn't know this would come up. But in conservation, you can replace staples outright. It used to be the practice in restoration to even just put stainless steel staples in the books, just replace them just out of hand. We're in here anyway. We're going to put stainless steel staples. They'll never rust, and it'll never be an issue, right? Staples are tricky. You can actually manufacture staples from galvanized wire that will fool CGC if you're really good at it. But again, that's not consent, right? That's not.
You're trying to trick
them. So the bottom line is, if you mess with staples, you're probably going to trigger conservation or restored, unless it's a very light touch. If you want a conserved book, and then it has to be A1 grade, then you need to replace the if they're completely blown out, right? They're just gone. Then you need to replace them with period correct staples, and that can stay in the conserved category.
What's now, is there other places to buy those staples? Where do you get period?
Yeah, it's called the comic shop.
Right.
Dollar bin. It's the dollar bin.
You just buy comics of the similar era that are cheap.
Yeah. Westerns,
the funny books,
that sort of
But
stuff.
I always wondered, like, if there's like, when they produced the comics, there must have been staple supplies, right? I was always wondering, maybe, there could be like staples out there that were never in a comic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New old stock.
New old stock, yeah.
New old stock, yeah.
It's easier just to find a coverless group of books on eBay for $7.99 for $20. You're like, it's less than $1 a set of staples. You're not going to find it.
You can find a stack of coverless Classics Illustrated. You can get 10 for $20 on eBay. So.
Now, philosophically, where do we fall on this? Like, so book rusted staples is going to fall apart. We have a staple replacement. It's not detected. To me, I think it's murky, but I'm on the side that this is there's no problem with this whatsoever. What do people think about this? Again, using Dr. Paul's Dr. Paul's example of consent. Are we philosophically good with this, or what do we think?
I think we have to get CGC's consent rather than the customer's consent.
I told a lot. I think Matt said this very well, where he said before, books where, just as a good example, I had a group of Spider-Man 1 through 20 sent to me last year that were all missing the staples. For whatever reason, not one copy had the staples in them. There wasn't rust migration. There wasn't evidence that the staples got, they're just gone. I've come across some stuff. I was like, cool, this is a new one for me. But the long and short is, I just did what I normally do. I sourced period staples from other books and swapped them out. And now here's where there's that gray area. CGC should give these books a conserved label. The staples have been swapped out. However, there is a reality that if period staples have been swapped out in a book, there's no rust migration in the paper at the staples indicating the previous staples blew out or anything like that. If everything looks as it should, it's one of the only cases where it can get through and it's not being pegged as conserved. And I've come to terms with accepting this, and I don't think that there's any, I could absolutely have my opinion changed, but I don't, in the same way where if you have like a 1970 Chevelle and the rear mirror breaks off and you go to a scrapyard and there's another 1970 Chevelle and you take the mirror and you put it in, some parts of the car have VIN numbers, but not all the parts do. If it's period, it's period at this point. And
see, it is what it is. This gets really close to when you marry comics, right? Where the centerfold's missing, and a lot of Golden Age books, centerfold's missing a lot of them.
Sure, yeah.
And it's either the centerfold or the cover, right? So you find a coverless copy, you get the centerfold, pop it into the other book, and they're both of the same period. Obviously, they're both printed, together. So, I feel like the staples and this are kind of almost similar. But at least with Marion, they're the same comic.
Philosophically, though, is the comic the staples or is it the printed paper? And I think
Matt's philosophy is if you're taking parts from another book, it's not original to that. Therefore, that's why it's conserved. And within that realm, I totally agree. The only problem with that is we grade the book as it sits in front of us, and we grade according to tells. And if we're looking at the staples and everything looks correct, the only way, and this is what I learned dealing with a Flash Comics 1 that I had submitted, the only catch here is that there's certain books that are too high profile that have a provenance to them, that if they were graded previously with replaced staples, you're not going to be able to get one through CGC. That book is forever, missing its staples.
And Allan, there's actually a practical difference between mirroring a centerfold and replacing staples too. And Phil sort of touched on, some of the parts on your car have serial numbers on them, some of them don't, right? VIN numbers and whatever. The page register in terms of the fold, the cut, the exact placement of the staple, very rarely works out. And it's very difficult to make that look right without trimming the page or doing something else. I have pulled it off. I put a centerfold back in a Batman 181 and had it come back blue label. Like I disclosed it to the owner, not disclosed it. The owner hired me to do the work. He subbed it to CGC and it came back blue label. But I think that's the exception.
The exception, not the
very
rule,
difficult. Very difficult.
Yeah, I got that impression when Matt was on your show that when the staple question came up, he was somewhat non-committal. Like he was kind of like, if we can't see it, we can't see it. But like he wasn't saying like, look, this is the rule. But he was saying
it's hard for him though, because he's I'm sure like if we were talking to him over a beer, he has one opinion, and speaking as the official spokesman of CGC is very different.
Yeah. That's right.
The biggest, I think, from me, the takeaway from Matt regarding staples was this: if the staples needed to be replaced, that is, they were very rusty, there was rust migration occurring, etc., then the book just ought to be conserved, and it's going to be conserved anyway, and it's going to be in a conserved label. If you're replacing the staples and sort of getting one by them, then it probably didn't need staple replacement, and it wasn't really affecting the grade. And so that was his position on it, was we catch it when it matters.
I see.
And isn't that really what's relevant here? Like if you have period correct staples, and there's no misalignment, as you said, no rust migration into the paper, and you're or like in Phil's case where he just had a bunch of Spider-Man, they had no staples whatsoever, and it's like, okay,
I think they were used to put staples in other books. That's why.
More valuable. They were removed to staples in some Golden Age books at some point when they were new.
And that was the one I'd never seen anything like that. That was weird.
That's wild.
Because I mean, you're what you're doing is you're this is a good thing. You're using period correct staples. You're replacing the staples. A whole Spider-Man book from, like you said, it was like first 10, first 20 ASM run. It's important. We want those around.
I view it no different, honestly. And I think that a huge takeaway people should have from this, that I mean, it was one of the books Captain Larry worked on, where he cleaned, deacidified the whole book, including the cover, and it came back universal. And my brain couldn't process, well, how is this universal? I was like, it's been cleaned. I don't get it until I realized this reality, and that is, if you're washing just the interior alone, the newsprint, and you do it properly, virtually guaranteed it will be universal wear, just the interior. If you're going to do the cover too, there's a chance that the wash can affect the sizing, the dimensional change. So then you might trigger cover cleaning. But let's just say only wash the interior. As far as I understand, if you do it right, you're going to deacidify the book, and it's going to be universal label work every time. So why would it's going to benefit the book? It's one of those weird cases. Adding staples from another copy isn't authentic to that copy, but you're doing it with good intention, just like the cleaning. You're just getting an extra benefit from it too.
So
go ahead. Allan. Go ahead, Allan.
One of the questions I had just like the whole time was like, how easy is it to disassemble a comic? Like, how is it an arduous process, or is it something that's easily done? Can I just get a bathtub, fill it with that stuff, and just throw all my Golden Age comics in?
No.
You can do whatever you want, man.
Probably not recommended.
It's
if you don't know what you're doing and you try to dry clean and press, and you watch a video and then you go to do it, and then the book's thrown across the room because you accidentally ripped it by doing something, and you just already destroyed. It's sometimes easier said than done, and there is a curve to this. But to those that know how to do it, really deacidifying is maybe a little tedious, but it's actually pretty straightforward work. The real barrier to entry is disassembling and reassembling it perfectly. That's the biggest barrier, and that takes, in my experience, at least a year or a couple of years to really perfect and get used to.
I sent some images over of some internal pages of a Flash 123 that might illustrate this really well. They're nice before and afters.
I'm not sure we prepared. I was preparing as best I could before the show with my computer problems, but is that, I don't know if, do we have that Rich, or I think those were on Instagram. I think we lost Rich.
We lost Rich.
He did not want to deal with those Instagram.
The
reason I bring it up is because interior pages are very tolerant of an aqueous bath. So you can, if you disassemble a book, if you have issues that are specific to the interior pages, it's definitely worth deacidifying and cleaning them.
The risk of color loss is
stain removal. Yeah, the risk of color loss is very low. That said, not a lot of your grade is tied up in the interior, right? About 80% of your grade per CGC is with exterior. But if you have an otherwise almost perfect book and it has some interior stains, it could be significant, right? So that's where I would start. I would start, if I were just beginning this journey, start by watching some of the people that are doing it on YouTube. Go watch Jerry the Jitterbug, watch, Captain Larry, watch Jason's channel, watch my channel if you like, and just practice with some inexpensive books. Buy some of those classic illustrated coverless lots off of eBay and just practice and
save the staple.
Yeah, save the staple.
No, can we? I just wanted to mention. I'm sorry, but I know Dr. Paul and Phil, you've been doing this for a very long time, but Jason is he's very self-deprecating in this, but I think his channel is fantastic. I'm sure you guys watch. Well, let's give Jason his flowers. For how long he's been doing this. Are you impressed with his work and his channel?
Yeah, I've told him this many times, and we've had him on our channel. He's really come in really over a short period of time, over about a year, went from kind of messing around in an amateurish way to really doing work at the top level that anybody else is doing, and doing it in a really entertaining way. I probably need to get caught up on some of these AI effects where he's hulking out and smashing. I'm behind on that curve. But yeah, very entertaining and very high quality work. I truly enjoy his channel.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just got, I got so much to learn from you guys, and I still am. And that's one of the things I love about my channel is the fact that every book is a new learning lesson. So thank you. I appreciate that though.
Now, maybe we could get to more of the questions from the chat. JSS had one just recently. Sorry if we don't get to all of them, but we will invite everyone on. But here we go. AG has a question for later questions. When do you think Silver Age books will be taking a nosedive based upon when they were made and the paper quality?
It's already happening. You see more with cream pages now than you used to. That's for sure.
Yeah. The other issue is there are just so many more of them. So supply and demand being what it is, yes, there's more demand maybe for that Amazing Fantasy 15, but the supply is, relative to Golden Age books, it's common, right? They're 10 to 1, they're 100 to 1 relative to some Golden Age books. I think that's catching up with the Silver Age in terms of, that supply. So Silver Age are tough too. They're not made to the same quality as the Golden Age books. If you watch channels like mine or Jason's or Jerry the Jitterbug, you won't see us work on very many Silver Age books. I've worked on a few almost to prove the point. They do not hold up to aqueous bath as well as Golden Age books. You have to use completely different techniques. You have to be much more careful. And even when you are more careful, you still run risks. So they're not getting conserved at the same clip that Golden Age books are. Another thing is, we mentioned before, this work is tedious, right? And I saw a question earlier about what does this work, kind of cost?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Phil has a price sheet on his website, so I would just direct you to Studios, and he has a breakdown a la carte, price list. I briefly did work for others, but I'm just too busy now. I only work on my own books, so I don't charge anything. I will very occasionally do something for a friend, but if you're not already a friend of mine, don't try to become one.
You're getting all these Instagram requests.
So anyway, what you'll notice, though, is that the Silver Age books just are not getting nearly as much conservation work done. It is possible. But what we were talking about in terms of the tediousness of this work, it's very easy to put 40 hours of work into one of these books, right? And that's like a fixed cost, right? Phil's time is valuable. He's a very talented person. And it's maybe reasonable to apply that work to a book that's worth 20 or 40 or 100 grand, but it's a lot less reasonable to apply that work to a book worth, 200 bucks, $400, right? And so the Silver Age books are not getting nearly as much conservation work for a number of reasons. That'll be self-correcting over time because more and more of them will be lost to the ages. And then the demand, the supply demand dynamic will change, right?
Now, Phil, can you just to add to what he was saying, and as much as you're willing to talk about, what is kind of a thumbnail of cost on this, and does it depend upon value of the book, time, proposed time? Is it something that you assess, or can you kind of just give people a guide of what it would cost?
Let's see how the best way to answer this is. I mean, it's based on each service, right? So in the same way where I have plenty of people that send me books just to have them dry cleaned and pressed. That's the goal, is just to make the nicest universal grade possible. That's it. Sometimes there's cases where I'm removing tape from a book, and then it's a question of, do we leave it universal or we do conservation work after? And in the same way before, where I said it's kind of my responsibility to know if it makes sense to do work, sometimes if it's safe. From an equity point of view too, I have plenty of clients who they ask me, what do you think we should do? Like, what would you recommend? And then it's kind of my responsibility to go to GPA and look and say, let's see, like, what is this going to probably max out at as a conserve? Does it make sense? You're going to spend X amount of money. The anticipated grade is this. And then, so I do try to break it down that way to say the money you're going to put in, you're going to see a return on in most cases, because that's why people have worked on. But generally speaking, a big rule of thumb for a lot of work is about 3% of fair market value for a lot of things. So like cleaning and pressing is, just over, it's like 3.25% of the value. If I'm removing tape from a book, if it's like a reasonable, like minor level amount of tape, it's about 3 to 4%. It depends again on the exact value on the book. It really, it's a book by book basis.
Okay. So best to go to the website and check. Yeah. JSS asks, do you typically crack books for clients, or are you too demure? What are your acceptable standards for to accept books and work on them in general? Apologize, that's a big question. Phil, maybe that might be one for you.
I just had a showcase 4 sent to me not long ago that was restored to have the color touch removed, and I see a lot of that copy in lower grade that's got that orange color touch. That the black line along the spine is almost always redrawn, stuff like that. It's stuff you tend to see over it. Just like Spider-Man 3's, the black in the bottom is always, and then the left side is always color touched. You start to see trends in certain books. I wouldn't be, I don't know. I always try to treat it as if it's my book. So I don't ever try to hastily just crack books out unless it actually makes sense. So in that case, I was hesitant. I even kind of gave the client a review. Hey, look, I think it's going to come back this grade. Okay, let's go through with it. And then I had it sit on my desk for a few more days, and I was like, I think that the grade might be that 1/2 step below, and that might matter. And I would rather. So I sent them a message and said, look, before I crack it, I really want to set expectations. I don't want to. So I always try to make sure people are happy with the outcome, because once I crack the book, then you got to pay regrading fees. I try to minimize that as much as I can. I wouldn't be in business if I was just very cavalier. Yeah, I cracked it. Oh no, it's no. Let's get it back in. It's really just look. I want you to know the risk is this. We can crack it, and then maybe it does make sense to have it regraded. But if I can prevent cracking it first, I'm gonna just say, look, I know you want it this way, but just let's leave it alone. Just be kind of upset that you're getting the book back as it is. Trust me, I've done this enough to know. It's sometimes you have to choose your disappointment, and I just say that trying to be realistic, not.
That's good negative. You do that though. That you're giving an actual assessment to the customer, so they're not just they at least they have their eyes wide open when they're going in doing it.
Yeah.
Now, Rich, do you think maybe we could share the link and invite people on if they have questions? Maybe we'll try to get some more questions. Apologies if we don't get to yours, but we're going to share the link, and if people would like to come on and ask our new friends a couple of questions or one or two, but while we're waiting for that, Louis had a question. When do you think conservators will have to invent new methods to preserve Silver Age?
They're doing it all the time. Dylan sells Boy Comics. He's got some interesting new methods, or kind of using different methods. Peter Alachi, he's always working with different methods. So that's one of the big learning processes of my channel, is that every few months there's a new process or a new thing to learn.
Yeah, I have a series of videos on a full conservation on an Avengers 1 actually, and so you can look there and see the differences of how that conservation goes versus a Golden Age 1. But yeah, it's already happening in large part. Again, it's not being done more because the value is not usually justifying it, and it's more tedious work. And so if you do the same amount of work and you can have a much bigger grade bump or better outcome in a Golden Age book, you're just going to tend to do that.
Yeah.
And please, everyone, follow on Instagram. Please follow all of our friends on that are participating. They're taking time out to do this and to help educate everyone and to add insight. So please follow everyone on Instagram. Please follow all the YouTube channels, and thanks again for
thumbs up. Thumbs up if you haven't, and leave a comment on the video too. It helps get this out, so other people that wouldn't have watched it might get it in their algorithm. It really makes a difference, everyone.
Hype too. If you got the ability to hype.
And please, follow Rich and I too. If you subscribe to Rich and I, our channels, we appreciate that as well. But
and JSS Brooklyn has been posting links basically to everything we talked about in the chat.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
He does a phenomenal job.
He always does. He's always great. Always can't be appreciated enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Were there other questions that we had while we're waiting to see if anybody would like to join us?
I was trying to look through.
Yeah, sorry, we buried. As we were talking about at the top, when we do these panels, it's very difficult to get to all the questions because we have a lot of people in the chat. In that we're discussing and topics to get to. I'm scrolling through.
Can I just say real quick, Alan, that horrific 3 that you got behind you is sweet. Love that book. Love it. Absolutely love it. It's a sweet down head cover. For a while, it was a little underappreciated, but you can't get an entry level copy for A Song and a Dance anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm very entry level in terms of my books.
That's awesome. Nice.
Mike, are you looking for yours, Mike? Do you have?
Oh no, I don't have a Dynamic 3 anymore. I traded mine. But I did get something cool. While we're waiting to see if people would like to join us, but I got one.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You finally received it. That's awesome.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, I got my Dynamic 3. I got it off Heritage.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
So, by the way, if anyone here, because you guys do a lot of putting things together, if anyone knows where an interior for Dynamic 11 is, I can. I have a cover. I just don't have the interior. So just putting that out there.
There's on the CGC forums. Have you used that at all as a resource?
Not much.
There's a thread. It might be in the comic grading and restoration subthread, and there's a "Do you want to get married?" is the name of the title. So it's a good resource. Like you might post their hair. I'm looking for this, and some
post there, or search that thread to see if anybody's already posted that they have it.
Yeah, because I could use the interior. I got the cover really cheap because it had the wrong interior.
Is that from Univ? The one that?
No, I've got it on Heritage.
Oh wow!
I paid $300 for just the cover with the wrong interior.
Oh, that's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I know Univ has one wrap because I was in the process of buying one.
It was like 7 of them. Yeah, I got
them. Yeah. It was. Here's Biggie has a question. Is there a way to fix a spine split on an Action 252 and not have a restored label?
Yes.
Sure. This is the example that I gave earlier of one of the places where you can pick up a lot of equity with conservation. So a spine split in that book is, I think the absolute highest grade you can have for a spine split is 2.0 with no other flaws on the book. And if it has any flaws, it's a 1.8 to 1.5. That's where you're starting. And if it's otherwise presents well, you can fix that with very standard conservation techniques. You're going to come back in the conserved label, but you can have a 6.0 or even higher. Larry, I think, had one of the best examples of just what's possible here. He had a Golden Age book where it was Atomic Age, but it's literally every single wrap split. Literally every wrap split. And he mended every single wrap, sent it in, and it came back 6.0 conserved.
Wow.
So it's possible to get a very large numeric bump. You will be in the conserved label, not restored if it's done correctly.
Can I be like kind of the bit of a pest on this one? I always wondered about this. Like,
that's up to you.
With spline,
Alan's good at that.
Couldn't you just get like duct tape and like put duct tape along the spine, which is like really horrible? Nobody would be able to see that it's a split spine, and tape actually gets you a blue label.
What you're getting at is actually,
I'm just saying, it sounds like a weird.
No, you make a good point, and Matt's talked about this in the past. There was a period of time where dealers were basically incentivized to do exactly what you're talking about by reattaching covers, and it's there's incentive to do that. But now the way CGC grades tape, exactly, there's the incentive's gone now, so you could do it, but
the tape.
If you put the tape on now, it will be universal, but they are going to assume if you put tape from top to bottom, especially opaque tape, the assumption is a split spine. So it's going to be graded not only as a split spine, but now it's going to be graded with an additional defect tape. So it goes from a possible 2 to a 1.8 or a 1.5, something like that.
Okay. So I was getting out my duct tape, and then I was like, wondering.
But didn't Matt say something about there's something about if the book has no other flaws and say like a corner was torn off or something like that, and you reapplied that corner with archival tape, it would come back. Or Scotch? Okay. I wasn't sure. Okay.
Well, in terms of the grade, it won't matter whether it's archival. CGC will recommend that you use archival because it's better for comics, and they care about comics.
Right.
Yeah.
So that the example you're bringing up, Jason, is you then have to weigh the grade, the downgrade from the missing chunk versus the downgrade for the presence of tape.
Right.
And in general, if it's a really tiny little corner piece, it's probably best to just say that one was lost to time.
Yeah.
But if it's a 1/2 inch or bigger kind of corner piece cut off or flaked off, taping it back on will actually be will make sense.
Right.
And still stay in the blue label.
Yeah.
Now, Coach had a question he asked earlier that we asked a question earlier about the difficulty of restoring, conserving foreign comics. Is this something you noticed where there's a gap?
Jason.
Yeah, it's because it's all unknown. When I was working on your book, it was like working on a paperback from the 60s rather than
a pulp or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't. The
materials are a little different.
Yeah, the paper felt different, and so I was really nervous about what kind of inks that they were using and what the paper would be able to put up with. That's why I started with a gel and gum slab, and because I wanted to take it really gently and see, test out the waters. But it turned out it was fairly hardy as far as the inks were concerned. That's a very good question, because I have a bunch of French comics now, and I want to conserve those as well. And they're from the late 40s. I don't know what the ink is going to do. I don't know what the paper is going to do. I'm nervous, but maybe I'll get one of the uglier looking ones and see what I can do with that, but very slowly,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Now, if the Rich shared the links, so if you guys want to join us, we're running out of time here, though, guys. So we don't want to monopolize our guests' time. They've been very generous with their time.
One other funny thing I was thinking about. Sorry, can I just
please?
I have a Tales of Suspense 39, which first Iron Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And literally somebody had taken they trimmed just one corner, like maybe like an inch or like a little bit less than an inch on the corner, just a little bit of the cover. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it got a restored label. Now, if I had just torn that little piece around it, what do you guys think about that? Like, if it's a tear, it would probably get the same grade, and it'd be worth like 10 times more.
Yeah.
It's good. So
we discussed it with Matt. We discussed it with Matt. You can.
What is that?
Phil, you can.
I'm most
cases, looking at the older comments for any other questions to answer.
So
go ahead.
There isn't like any direct, like there isn't a universal answer to that question. Unfortunately, it really kind of is on a book by book basis. But let's just say, for all intents and purposes, you have just to make the case, like another book where you have a married centerfold that's been from a bound volume. So all the top, right, and bottom edge has been trimmed, and you want to try to do what you're saying. You want to try to mask the trimming by just making it look like natural paper loss instead. Mm-hmm. They're going to look at that, and there's going to be probably a tell from the spine that it was in a bound volume. They're going to look at the amount and say, this was trimmed. It doesn't matter what it looks like now. This was obviously trimmed. In the case of what you're talking about, it's a little more gray, where if it's just like you said, let's say it's only like this much of the top right.
Less than that. It's about half of that. It's really tiny. It's so dumb.
In many cases, it'll say like the top edge. And if you really look at the top edge, you can see it's a little wavy. So to obscure all of the top edge, it's going to be really difficult to do it and have it pass through CGC. If it's just what you're saying, it's possible that you could remove paper, and by doing so, you're technically you're acknowledging that you are destroying what's there. It is a necessary thing in order to obscure the trimming. So it's
as I recall, Matt's answer was something. As I recall, Matt's answer was something to the sense of, we can't see what we can't see into your book. Do what you want with your book,
Yeah.
So,
okay, I was just curious. I was like, sort of a devil's advocate.
We get it. Start to get into philosophical issues there too.
In the exception, it might make sense in one out of however many cases. I think that you can make the case maybe, but in most cases, and generally speaking, we don't advise doing that for the same reason we don't advise putting Scotch tape on books. Just
I said duct tape, okay?
So we had a couple people join us, but just a couple people. Shout out to Salesboy and Jerry the Jitterbug just both joined us.
Hey,
good to see you guys.
What's up, Jerry? What's up, Dylan? Keep it moist, my man.
Yeah. So I think someone needs to turn their volume down. Where maybe Bobby or Lau. I think you just joined.
Echo.
Yeah, we're getting the feedback. But So Lau joined us. Lau actually he makes his own comics, and maybe before your question, Lau, maybe you want to reveal the great artist who might be working on a friend of ours might be working on one of your books with you.
I probably shouldn't say anything because
okay.
No official guarantee.
Oh, I think turn your mic up, but I think it was your volume on your mic up, but your volume on your computer down. Like, okay, I don't know. Hello? Okay, try again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
No.
Still can't hear you, buddy.
Yeah,
But we can pretend.
really
It's soft. It's soft. We can hear it.
Yeah, I heard you. It's just very quiet.
Is this
Yeah.
better?
Okay, try again.
So.
Is this better?
A little bit better.
A little bit.
Okay, yeah. It's tough, but if you had a question, please ask.
Like you're whispering.
Okay. If anybody can hear me,
Yeah, we good.
okay.
We'll be quiet.
It's just a thought I had about the restored versus the unrestored. Is I've kind of been shopping around on my comic shop, and there's a Heidi Divine or a Hetty Divine issue from the Golden Age. It's unrestored, but some kid, I guess, in the 1940s drew like a mustache on the character on. And I was just thinking, nobody's buying this book.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was restored, if there's somebody who, I don't know, put some sort of chemical solution over it and got rid of the mustache, they'd be able to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand why the unrestored would be ostensibly more valuable. Anybody has
Any thoughts on that, guys?
You might want to repeat the question, Mike.
Well,
I couldn't hear you at all.
I mean, someone still got to do the work, so there's going to be that issue. I mean, I find those type of books valuable simply because I feel like if I got a chance to pick up a book that no one else can look at or will want to work on, or if I can fix it up quick, it's a good value for me now. But
Now, can you remove that like ink on a cover? Because I've seen there's this one. I almost feel like it's a pedigree where there's somebody that is basically going.
Somebody's got a
around
really bad echo.
numbers, right?
Yeah,
It's
somebody's got a really
it's
bad
Lau. Could you mute your mic, Lau?
Okay, you know what? I'll probably just head out, but
We scared him away.
Sorry.
it's no problem.
Didn't mean to do that. It's just gonna echo. That's all.
We'll do our best to answer your question though.
Okay.
But
thank you, Al.
there was
Yeah, can you remove ink?
yeah, so I got a series of books where somebody literally wrote the year all over the cover, and it's there's not one book but 30 books like that where they're somebody went crazy writing the year on the cover, and I'm thinking ink should be I've heard that you can kind of use some aqueous bath to kind of remove ink. It can kind of float off kind of thing.
Suction. You're more dealing with blotting and suction.
What can be removed? What can't? When it comes to ink or marker, any type of pen, pencil, what works? What doesn't?
It's more safe to do in areas where, let's say, someone took ballpoint pen in a white area, and then you can obscure it. But if you're talking about someone took pen and drew over someone's face like he asked, without when you try to remove the pen, the only way to do it might remove some of the original ink too. So then you're gonna dive into a full restoration project where it isn't just about trying to remove what's there. It is about trying to make the overall presentation nicer, and you acknowledge that you're probably gonna have to do some color touch to that. That might be the only way to make it look like it did before once you remove the ink.
I've been able to remove some amounts of ink on a couple of books I've worked on, including Mike's, and it was pen ink. But it just really depends on the book. Sometimes they're easier to, but to Phil's point, I think if you're going to remove the ink, you're going to probably have to cover clean, and that will probably get you conserved grade. So
yeah, that too.
Remember my hierarchy. The most difficult is trimmed, then the next is ink, and then glue, and then piece fill. So it's up there in terms of difficulty. It's
So
you're always going to be
mustache
making
stay,
trade-offs.
is what you're saying.
I'm saying Hetty maybe is going to live with that mustache for a while.
It's great if you're already getting the book worked on for something else. You know, if the book needs tear sales and a bunch of other stuff anyways, you know, might as well try to get the ink off too. You know, so
Just
Bobby,
a quick
did
note.
you have a question or anything? Or?
Just before we get, just anybody, if you have to leave, we understand, but we're just trying to get to whatever question you have. But this is great conversation, so thank you very much for being so patient and staying with us. But sorry, Bobby, if you had a question.
Oh yeah, thanks. This is working, right?
Yeah.
My question has sort of been tickled at a few times. Phil kind of sort of touched on it, and Jason, but I'm wondering maybe if you can go more on it. And it kind of gets to what to some of what Allan was saying when he was talking about the corner of that book, and and how to handle that and what the book's value would be, because that's what I'm getting at. But I'm wondering about the opinion on, if one should seek restoration removal on a book where that's possible, or let a book be if it's in good shape, right? Is this a matter of value or trying to get to some kind of natural state on the book, right? And I know some of this discussion is about a book's longevity when you're talking about acid, but I often wonder, like sometimes, like Allan was kind of sort of hinting at too, like, hey, I could get more value out of this book if I destroyed it in some kind of way, right? So I guess I'm wondering at like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, do we let a book ride, or do we, restoration removal to get it to its original state? Like, what's your kind of philosophy general?
My thoughts have actually been evolving. I think when I first jumped into this game, I was definitely of the opinion that if you can remove restoration and, get a better universal grade or even a conservative grade, and that will give you a better value for the book and all that, the equity is well worth it. I'm getting to the point now where I don't want to do that. I just sometimes and it had a lot to do with like channels like Allan's, for instance, where the love of a good restored book, as long as it looks fine, I don't know if I want to move in that direction anymore. And I think it's going to be a very person-to-person situation. Some people are going to really want to build up that equity in their book and think that this is the best way to do it, and I am okay with that. But I think for me personally, I'm more going towards the idea that maybe I don't want to always do that.
Like I've seen books where it was like a 6.0 restored, and then it was unrestored and made a blue label, and it went down to a 1 or 2, some like really low grade.
Sure.
And it was faded looking. I was like, man, they shouldn't have done that.
But does that book garner more value?
I can't see how
it would actually get more value, but
still,
which I'm not into. Like I would, like I'm not saying I'm a proponent of that
personally. Just the kind of person I am. So,
so
I was
sorry.
I was just gonna say in my experience as someone that does this professionally, it's a book by book basis based on the value of the book, and it just is it's a reality. It's like, if I can do this, I'm gonna make $10,000. It's like, why wouldn't you do it? For $10,000, you're like, it's a thing where if you don't, the next person probably is. So then it's just a matter of what's
right.
What's the longevity of what's being done? Does it make sense? But that certainly is like a moral kind of quandary there, at least in terms of just in case of the specific instance of the trimming. That is
like, I always feel like the doctor, do no harm. I feel like there should be something in
the conservator's oath. I swear I shall not perform.
I will do no harm.
Actually is right. There's actually a conservators professional society, and that is one of the credos. Similar,
not of comic books. You're referring to like
Yeah, like you mentioned Susan Ciccone earlier. I mean, she's classically trained as a conservator, right? And this is an industry. This is a profession. People work in libraries and museums, et cetera, and they have professional societies, and they have ethical standards, and that's very high at the top of the list.
That's cool.
You know, our friend Metal Elf Collectibles, good to see you, man.
Yeah.
He had a question. Would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, I've been out of the pressing for a little bit. A few years ago, I was in Captain Mike's group, and behind me is my Seal 210M.
Nice.
I'm looking to get back into it. I had some issues with my neck, which, as you guys know, you're staring down at the books for a long time. But I was wondering, the last new development I had heard of was wet stacks. Is there some other new techniques that are going on?
I've been doing wet stacks or variants of them. Chris Trump released some really nice pressing boards that I've been using.
Yeah, I need to get those.
And I've been using his pressing boards with the way he does the wet stack, which is just a little bit different than Jim Walgert's method, but it's the same basic idea. You know, it's rather than humidify the book, you humidify a stack of paper, and you use those kind of damp pages of copy paper as buffer, and then that humidity goes through the book, and it's faster and works quite well.
So people know, you need a little humidity in a book to.
Well, can there be a color transfer in that where you? Because if you have a wet paper against,
it's not wet.
There can be, but if you do it right, there isn't.
Yeah.
I was thinking there's kind of a risk there.
It's much less risky than like the hop. So I think it's fair to say Jim and Chris, neither one of them do hop method anymore. The way that they described it in the second book with Captain Mike, they both do some variant of wet stack. He came on our channel. Jim Wolgert came on our channel and described it. I think that's what you're referring to, Chad. Chris's method differs just a little bit, and he's sort of outlined it in a few places, just in terms of like where he puts this pages, what he buffers outside, that kind of stuff. I think these wet stacks are great. I've moved primarily to using them, but you must have the right kind of buffer to work well with them. If you just try to use your SRP and you use the same heat you were using before, you will not get good outcomes. So
SRP, could you define?
Yeah, I was wondering what that was too.
That's silicon release paper. Chad,
I see.
Chad does it well. That's the original buffer that was used, that Captain Mike popularized, and it works well for certain applications. But it's more or less impervious to water, so it's kind of a water barrier. So there's no path to escape for the moisture. So what'll happen is, especially if you use too much heat, you use SRP, you actually get like a cockling of the paper, where it'll ripple because the water's just trapped there and it's being heated up. Yeah. So you have to buffer a little bit differently, but Chad, those are the things I'm doing.
This is what you're referring to, Dr. Paul? Maybe
this is the original book. I'm actually talking about the sequel to this book.
The sequel to it, yeah.
So everyone, if you're looking, look for the more recent version of this. Is kind of like the Bible of pressing CPR, cleaning pressing books. But he's talking about the Captain Mike's newer version of this. But you could get it on Amazon. So
I'm actually talking about the book in between those two. Sorry, to try to correct you, but so there's that book. Then right after that, there's the stain removal and whitening book. They call the SRW book. And then there's the new. He co-published or co-wrote with Chris and Jim and a few other folks the second book, and the new book that you're referring to actually has some content from Shelby and I in it. But it is Yeah, I'm talking about that middle book. Sorry.
Okay. I just wanted to let people know because people don't know Dr. Mike and Captain Mike. I'm sorry. But our friend Biggie joined us. The great Biggie Shack. Can you guys, Biggie, you have a question for these guys?
Yeah, I do. Can you make me big, Rich? I want to show these guys something, see what they think.
Sure, bro.
So I got this first Penguin Silver Age, and it's got it's like a postal stamp thing on it. Is there anything you could do about that? Or I've been told there's nothing you could do about it.
Put it a little higher.
Yeah, lift it up there for us.
It's on
your right there. You go.
Okay. I see.
Yeah, like a literal stamp on there.
Oh,
wow.
there.
Interesting.
What?
Maybe the
What is
stamp's
going
not-
on? Because we can see the dragon smoke through the
above
stamp.
it. Yeah, it's weird.
Has it been lifted off, but there's still remnants of the stamp there is what it looks like. Maybe.
I've never touched it. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
When you say it's a postal stamp, do you mean literally a stamp?
I'm guessing that's what it is. I have no idea.
It looks like remnants because it's underneath the.
Yeah, it's underneath the wing and the smoke rings.
It looks almost like glue, maybe glue from the stamp was. No,
It looks like some kind of arty thing to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't. It might not be a postal stamp. It might be just like a stamp on the book, like someone used a stamp.
Like a ink.
Yeah, like an ink stamp.
Oh, like an ink stamp. Okay, I see what you're saying, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah, and if that's the case, possibly it could be removed. I mean, maybe not completely, but someone used something like a MacuClean or I don't know. There are ways I think that you could be treated. I'm not sure if I'd want to deal with it.
I'm not sure it's worth it because you run risk. It's such a nice book otherwise. I'm not sure how much, and I don't even know if you are into slab books or whatever. I'm not sure how much CGC is really going to ding you for this stamp.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
And then at the end of the day, you run the risk of damaging the existing inks. I mean, that's actually
discoloration of the
book, right?
It is a nice copy. That's why I always
I've got a copy of this book. It doesn't look nearly this nice. But I would be interested to see some close-up images to it. If you could send them to us, I'd love to try to figure out what's going on there.
I bet that's the kind of book that I would like to
we can give you a better answer. That is the sort of ink that I would probably attempt to remove with a solvent on a vacuum table. Would be your sort of where you'd have probably the best luck. But again, those techniques are not without risk.
Yeah.
Now, there was one more question I saw. Michael in the chat. He said, he has a teacher background. Yeah, just asking about your education background, artist, history, chemistry. Dr. Paul, you're actually a PhD, correct?
Yeah, I have a lot of education. My undergrad was in cell and molecular biology. I did 2 master's degrees, one in biomedical engineering, one in electrical engineering, actually, and then I did a PhD in biomedical engineering.
We're in the same industry.
Yeah, my undergrad degree, though, before I switched to cell and molecular biology, I studied chemical engineering.
Wow.
Don't be too impressed. I left it because I was just like, this is killing me. But I got enough of a background there that then I really breezed through graduate work. So
wow. So not only you have biology and chemistry and advanced degrees in both. That's incredibly impressive.
Well, it's funny as I stayed in academia for a little while. So I actually had an academic post at Harvard and MIT in their HST program. So I was on the research faculty at both Harvard and MIT. So
you're kind of smart, I guess.
I was so impressed.
I wasn't smart there. I'll tell you what, man.
You
walk into some rooms there, and I was clearly the least intelligent person in a lot of those.
I've been in those.
There's some insane. Yeah, there's some insane.
I visited Harvard. That's all.
There's some insane talent there.
Dr. Paul, I was so impressed with your qualifications. Not that my opinion has a lot of weight, but just as a professional working, I was so excited because I knew that I would be needing to get into more serious conservation methods. And hearing you talk, I was like, this guy I'm very confident in my skills and my ability to do things, but I have a cap. My brain can only process so many things. And on a molecular level, I'm like, I trust what you're saying if this is the literature, but like this, so what I'm getting at is when I was doing independent research before there was really a conservation community here, it's so easy to read the information, but then say, do I know for sure what I'm doing is safe? Do I know I'm really deacidifying this? Do I know? Yeah. So you filled in the blank, like,
well, okay, I appreciate that, but there are a lot of smart people in it. I mean, off the top of my head, the professor Peter Olachi is like literally master's thesis on paper.
He was in the chat earlier.
Yeah, brilliant guy. Joe Topsuski, brilliant chemist. Rick Morgan, brilliant chemist, right? Like we have a lot of people in this hobby that know more than I do, frankly.
Bill, to your point, I was when I was working on my book, that my recent project with basically mold remediation, and I was looking at some of the peer-reviewed work on Papain and Betaine, and that kind of thing. I'm like, ChatGPT, just translate this for me. I don't understand what they're saying.
We have that now.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to monopolize. Other people have
please.
education backgrounds too.
That's fantastic. I think that's great information for everybody. And again, it's another reason to buy his book. Everyone, buy his book.
In all seriousness, think about it. The president of CGC asks Paul for his opinion on things. That's how much he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
It's really. I was just saying.
And but I know Phil's being humble, but Phil, you're you've handled some of the great books of the world. I know this to be true. Can you give a couple of examples of some of the books you've worked on? I believe I heard you worked on an Action 1. Is that right?
I got one right over here. Yeah. So,
is it okay if you show it?
It's to be cracked out soon, but
no,
Action 1. No, we love to see it. I think everybody likes to see an Action 1 once in a while.
I like. Would you just skip town at this point and
Well,
so unlike
you say that there are people who've done that.
There has been. There was.
I'm unlike Dr. Paul. I'm completely self-trained, so I just am fortunate enough to have met the right person here in New York City who did this in the 90s, who took one of the last courses that Bill Cyril, the real godfather of doing this.
Da Vinci was an autodidact.
Okay, so
oh my god!
This is crazy. This is crazy.
Look at that, everybody.
I see an aura around it.
That's GLOP, guys.
I wouldn't want it as a purple label.
The seriousness of this isn't lost on me.
No. On anyone. What now I know you can't talk about the client very much, but what do they want done?
I mean, in this case it's a matter of
you're trying to get
so in this case it's not possible, but if you look on my Instagram, I posted a Flash Comics 1 that was a 7.5 restored, and I was able to remove what was there and it came back a 1.8 universal, which is a significant drop, but if you know the book, the equity bump was at least double, right? So in a case
Allan, it didn't really suffer much in terms of presentation either. It actually looked really nice.
Okay,
yeah, really
that's
did.
something to me that's like,
it presented really well. It just had technical issues that kept it at the 1.8, but it presented really well.
Part of it was the idea going in was it was to be conserved, but that book qualified for a universal label because the cover cleaning was able to be re-reviewed. The long and short is that in this case, this book's got quite a bit of color touch, but just for all intents and purposes, the label notes are color touch, pieces added, tear seals, reinforced, and cleaned. So CGC is kind of not change their stance, but they can re-review cleaning notations, and that's the only thing here that couldn't technically be removed. So in this case, though, I've talked to Matt directly. The cleaning on this would not be able to go universal, but it might be able to go conserved. So if I'm able to safely remove the color touch and the pieces added and the reinforcement, then this book could go conserved, possibly, which would be incredible. But the craziest thing is what this book also has inside on the third wrap is tape.
Oh, wow.
So no matter what, there's tape and there's a little bit of a spiral on the back. So no matter what this book goes through, at the very least, I am fortunate enough to be able to crack it, no matter what, to remove the tape and to remove the spiral, which is going into this knowing no matter what, I'm going to be able to remove tape from it. I mean, I'm going to get to touch this book, let alone disassemble it and remove tape from it and then reassemble. And then there's an added, maybe there's a cherry on top that I can look and start removing the color touch and it's actually coming off safely. And it's like, oh my God, if I could, there's a lot of potential in this. So I have the community to really thank, and really it's
just some guy.
I don't have words. Yeah, I feel like I faked it until I made it, but in some ways the proof is in my body of work up until now. But
absolutely, you don't get this book without having a resume.
I'm not like Dr. Paul. I'm not. I haven't gone to school for this. I just put in the time on countless books at this point, and it was entrusted higher and higher level books until I'm at. This is it feels like a fever dream. And this is like not.
I'm a big believer in autodidacts. I think there are many examples of people who are fantastically intelligent. And just so you know, you've probably already looked this up, but 2024, that book on your desk sold for $380,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's freaking nervous.
I'm gonna put it in the safe after we get off the show. But in all seriousness, that's no. I mean, even a Superman 1, that I have here.
Huge book.
That is a crazy book.
Could you show that? I know we're running out of time, but could you show that book if you have it around?
This is a guy who finds Amazing Fantasy 15s boring.
Yeah, well, I mean, run the gamut. We'll get our Tech 27.
If AG is in the chat, this is his. So this is a book, and this is the we talked about this earlier. So the page quality on this says brittle, but I did some due diligence and I found this book in its previous 1.0 holder on Heritage before someone removed tape and straightened it out. And the page quality on that copy, I believe, was cream to off-white. So I find it hard to believe it went from cream to off-white to just brittle. I think that the page quality here might be on the safer side of brittle. But I'm going to crack this out and deacidify the entire interior. We're going to see if we can get a slight bump in page quality while keeping universal.
Yeah.
And that's not lost on me. I mean, this is the second copy of this book I've got to work on.
Can we all appreciate the balls on Phil? Like he just put them on the desk. He just put his balls on the desk and showed you guys.
Now, is there a chance you can get a grade bump as well? Because sometimes they give a grade knock with pages. Like sometimes, like you can actually lose 1 or 2 points just on the brittle.
Not in this low a grade, though, Allan.
Exactly.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
So we've discussed this kind of at length too. Not all grades are created equal, and there is a wide range of books, and even the 1.0 range. So I think something like this, there's enough grade limiting defects that even with the bump in page quality, it's probably still capped at a 1, but a 1.0 with light tan to cream pages is better than a 1.0 with brittle. Not only that, the cool thing is, no matter what, I mean, once this is deacidified, this is going to be one of the copies of this book that 100 years from now will outlast other copies that haven't been. That makes you think, well, why aren't we doing it on the other ones? Well, because of what it is, and because of the barrier to entry from a value perspective, from a purist perspective. You have a lot of different things coming in. But
cheers to Aubrey for being a supporter of conservation as well.
One of the greatest, like one of my good friends, and he absolutely, I know, shares our opinion about preserving these things and making sure other people get just Bobby in the chat, RIP to Sam Keith, artist from Sandman.
Oh wow,
Sam Keith, man.
The Max.
Wow. I didn't think he was that old.
It says March 15th.
For
some reason, they just announced it today. So
no way.
Yeah.
Terrible news.
He's my favorite artist of the 90s. Wow.
Oh, that is such a
I love the Max. Like,
I
remember that cartoon? The cartoon?
it was on MTV.
He worked on some Hulk stuff, some stuff. Yeah.
I got a cabinet over here full of his stuff.
Oh, okay.
Marvel Comics Presents. He did a bunch of covers for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's Wolverine and whatnot.
Great Wolverine ones.
Yeah.
I love the Max. I liked that era of some of the comics in that era. Some of them were garbage, but there were a lot of there was a lot of
that was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah. So I think you guys have been very generous with your time, and we don't want to totally take advantage. Please, everyone, subscribe to everyone, including our friend Metal Elf. And if you're not subscribed, again, Phil, like he's handling. You just saw he's handling some of the great comic books in the world. If you have that type of comic, that's the guy you want to talk to. As far as guys who are doing this, for a living, check him out on not only on Instagram. Check out his website. Our new friend Dr. Paul, one of like the smartest people we've had on this channel, most well educated, and Jason, our friend Archivist Adrift, who is very humble and who is, I believe, really super talented in doing this stuff, and who really, he knows a lot about Golden Age books, and his channel is fantastic. If there are awards, again, you know what? If people are doing this award show and there's like this thing for cleaning, pressing, restoration of comics, what he's doing on his channel, his videos are amazingly well put together. If he's not winning this year, then throw away the award. and of course, our good friend Allan, who I believe Allan ComicCollectorGeek, who most of us have met through Allan's channel, and most of us have subscribed through Allan's channel. And Allan really is he's a connecting glue in this one sort of area of comic book YouTube. Also, one of the great proponents of these types of books, who's really been talking about these things for quite some time. And I always say, like, there are two channels that you should be subscribed to. Everyone, whoever you are, subscribe to all of these guys. Of course, well, sorry, but if you're worried, if you're concerned about like understanding new books and new artists and the bleeding edge of what's going on, Beyond Wednesdays, you need to subscribe to Beyond Wednesdays. But if you really want to understand Golden Age books, Silver Age books, old books, and the stuff that's going on there, Allan and Steven will give you like your own PhD in those kind of books. Subscribe to Allan's channel. He's covering that more than anyone. So, and then then Rich and I. Channel. And Rich and I, please subscribe to us too.
But thanks for everybody in the chats, man. Thanks for the JSS for being our Blue Wrench, helping out there and posting stuff like crazy. Always does an awesome job.
That's a great guy.
Appreciate you very much, Mr. John. And again, like Chanko said, thanks to our guests. Thanks for your time. Going on 2.5 hours. So great discussion. Another great show. As always. I didn't say much. People were saying stuff in the chat. I didn't. I was eyeballing the chat and seeing what was being said and keeping everything else straight behind the scenes here. So sometimes
people need to appreciate what Rich is doing. By the way, like
sometimes
he's the backbone of the show, really. You know,
I've talked to. In fact, Jason and I were talking about this too, and I was saying like I'm a bit of the big mouth, and I kind of have the questions and stuff, but like I could never do this. Like I couldn't do my own show. That would never happen. Like Rich and I, we talk probably 2 or 3 times a week, and we're very good friends. And there's a certain symbiotic thing that happens here. about how we do the show and how we put it together and why I think it's working so well. And it's because we both have strengths and areas that the other one helps with. So that's why this works. So just, if anybody is like wondering in the chat why it kind of works, just it does.
Yeah, it works the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
But, with that, what we got next week, Chanko? We got who do we have?
Oh, geez, I forgot this time. Like, pretty bad because I'm like promoting like weekly. It's Caleb Addy. Yeah. Next week, we have the great Caleb Addy. If you're not familiar with the great artist Caleb Addy, he does really dark, creepy stuff. I am going to be at C2E2. Now, we were going to do something like I'm not going to be staying that night at C2E2, but I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to meet Caleb Addy at C2E2. I'm going to also have a beer with our good friend Anthony Cleveland, the writer of Very Long Ago. If you're check out Caleb Addy. I think you're going to like his stuff. It's really like, if you like creepy and weird kind of art, which I think a lot of us do, check out Caleb Addy. Caleb Ady is his last name. Artist, great guy. He has a new project he's working on right now, and I'll be seeing him next week, and we'll be interviewing him, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
So with that, we'll get off here and say thanks again to everybody in the chat and our guests, and we will see you guys next week.
Please stick around, guys.
Yeah.
Take care of one another.
It's a live show. Oh. It's a live show. Oh no, just wait, 'cause it's not just a live show, it's the live show. Yo, it's a live show. Oh. It's a live show. Yo, it's a live show.